Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Miscellaneous Debris podcast. I apologize. I was trying to do a little, but I actually had a little something about that. Anyway, apologies. The Miscellaneous Debris podcast with me, Mad Chatter, Ryan MK. That's right. Fix the screen a little bit here. Welcome back to the pod. Hope you've all been well since we last potted. Yeah. Hope you have. It's been good here. The Madhouse MK. Another uneventful week, like last week. Another week that lacked the chaos that had been ever so present in my life as of recent. But that is gone, at least for the past couple of weeks. But it's given me a chance to recoup. Kind of spoke about it last week. Recoup a little bit and re-energize the batteries, recharge the batteries, but also to kind of sort some mental stuff out, because I really have been, to be honest, madcaps, struggling a little mentally. And you know me, I'm more than happy to open up about stuff, but I'm not going to go into great detail because a lot of it still figuring out myself. But I know one thing, that I have my wife, my kids, things are fine. We have roof over the heads, food to eat. So not too much to complain about in that regard. So in most respects, life is good, and it's been especially good. Not to be crazed with shit lately. As Marshawn Lynch says, take care of your mentals. And as you saw, well, if you're watching the YouTube version, not just listening to the pod, you might have seen me come in with this magic wand. It's actually the Snape's wand. Yes. Played by Alan Rickman. See, I had saw something recently on Twitter in the fantasy community. People speaking ill of Harry Potter, saying the movies are horrible. Now, don't get me wrong. Those first couple of movies, I get it. But the ones after that, I think they were talking about the third one, which is one of my favorite ones. Here's the bottom line. Fine if it's not your cup of tea. And we don't need to get started on the author because she's something else. Not in a good way, But to me, great stories, great fucking idea in general. There's a magic world and a magic school for wizards in which that's totally awesome. So I'm a big fan. I was a denier for many years. And it was in my sobriety that I finally was like, okay, because my brother's a big fan. He was like, you gotta check. So I did. And became a huge fan, to be honest. Really a big fan. Once you get past it, for me, is getting past the first couple of books, the first couple of movies, because they are very, PG, young, etc. Felt for younger audience, but they just get better and better. I love the story. There's definitely some of the movies could have been better, but I think some of them were really good. So I don't know. I don't understand why people complain. I just don't get it. I dig me some Harry Potter. Turn my wife into a Harry Potter fan. That's right. But she and I, one of our nightly routines, hanging out, smoking a little, watching some ridiculousness, and shows in general. We have a few different ones we watch, but we're very fond of the ridiculousness, and we like to show each other videos that we come across and save on social media or whatever, and it's just kind of our nightly hangout thing. But she was showing me this one. Well, it was a German video, and It's got sad noise in the background. Little girl looking ragtag from a broken down home, talking about she's hungry because it's in German, but they've got the captions on. And then towards the end of the commercial says blah blah blah, Americans live in poverty. Like, what? Is this a fucking parody? Like, what is this? This is for funny, right? This is for funny. That's what this is. This is for funny. And the lady that's posting this video goes, I'm saying this is bullshit. I had to look into it for myself. I looked into it for myself. Holy shit. You're trying to tell me this is real? Now I can't verify whether this is real or not. But it's insane. And it is a reminder of some of that's just one of many issues in this fucking country that a lot of people don't want to look at. Let's face it, there's half the country that, if you got so many issues with this country, you just leave. You just leave. You go somewhere. Yet their slogan is "Make America Great Again." Like, the hypocrisy. It's insane. But there are a lot of issues in this country, and it's a reminder of that, and the division that keeps us from attaining betterment for us all as a society. I mean, you look at the juries, the big time juries going on, not juries, trials going on right now, Rittenhouse and the Arbery, Ahmaud Arbery, the juries, mostly white, right? Surprise, surprise. This is crap. Are we truly able to get justice in that way? Because if this country was true, that wouldn't be a problem, would it? But it is a problem. And we've seen that it bothers me, because for half the country, it's completely acceptable that there's only white juries. Half the country, and maybe it's less, maybe it's a little less, believe Mr. Kyle was not in the wrong. It was self-defense. And, it's sickening. And that side, and again, coming from a guy who, up until a handful of years ago, really, when shit really changed, up until then, the chatter, he was pretty independent, pretty in the middle. Thinking both y'all idiots. This two-party system is stupid, archaic. I've said it a million fucking times. I know, I'm surprised. I'm saying it again, because we're on this fucking topic again. A handful of years ago, became abundantly clear with the rise of one individual. One side, one half, has a major fucking problem, in my humble fucking opinion. I shouldn't even say humble in that regard, because I am an asshole about this particular opinion. Not only because if you pay attention to history, if you really truly look with an unbiased eye, which is hard to do for people of prejudice, because that's part of the reason they like Trump, right? Because that's what I'm fucking talking about, obviously. But if to put that aside and just look at it for what it is, the scam artist that he is, like, it just had to be why a lot of people thought there's no way this fucking guy's gonna, oh shit. And that hypocrisy that I mentioned, that side, their hypocrisy is astonishing. I mean, the whole cancel culture thing, they were all on board canceling Kaepernick. People wanted him fired. Trump himself, when president, said he should be out the country if he won't stand for the flag. Remember that? And he did get blackmailed. Why do you think he got a settlement from the NFL? He was blackmailed. And I'll be interested to see. We're going to have to review that Colin Kaepernick documentary when I watch it on this podcast, because I'm sure it's fascinating. The chances are, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, if he did get this settlement from the NFL, he's probably going to be leaving some things out of this documentary, assuming he's in it and whatnot. I haven't seen a lot about it. I just know there is one, and I want to check it out. But this, you see this constantly. They complain about cancel culture, and then they try and do the same shit. Trying to take control of women's bodies with like the abortion laws, things like that. But yet, when it comes to the vaccine, my body, my choice. Even though there was a lot of Republican leaders, downplaying COVID or, not bringing out full information about COVID. A lot of those Republican leaders, and they were first in line to get the fucking vaccine. And so many on that side, anti-science. That's one that just really fucking bugs me. Like, we are as advanced as we are because of science. And now all of a sudden you're not going to believe. And I get it. There's some random doctors out there that have some different beliefs about COVID. But if you don't you listen, the majority of doctors, health experts, like how are you not? I don't get it. But a lot of it is the uneducated. Because I've said it before, and it's not to try and make those who are educated, because I know plenty of smart people that have not been to college, but without some form of education, like even community college at its basic form, collegiate college, you go to community college, you're going to at least learn how to research well. And there's just certain things you're going to pick up that will help you in the future. And I've spoke a lot about the importance of research and knowing the good stuff from the bad stuff, basically. So the uneducated, that's a big part of it, because I just sounded uneducated. But that's part of it with the anti-science crowd. And another part of it is religion. And I've shared my thoughts, and apologies if you hear there's walking around upstairs. So that you may hear some creaking, and then there's a plane flying around outside. So anyway, as you know, I record very late in the evening once the fam is asleep. So it's late on a Sunday night. That's right. Anyway, where was I? Thought train derailed. But the religion thing, again, I've talked about it before, but I'm down with it to an extent, because I do believe it helps. One thing about religion is it tries to help explain some questions, mainly life after death, right? If there is anything, like what happens once we die. We go to heaven, reincarnated, whatever it may be. So that helps ease people's minds, right? And then it can begin in the sense where it's like, hey, if you want to achieve those things, the good stuff after you die, should be good, right? But there's always been extremes in religion, and that's where shit goes haywire. The saying goes, moderation. And my mom told me a long time ago, many years ago. Moderation, my son, moderation. It's true. That goes really for everything. I struggle with moderation sometimes. Eating habits, well, and it's just insane how extreme some religious people have become in this country. And it's bothersome to an extent that religion, which to me is basically claiming to know things that there's no way of knowing. I did just to me, and it controls so much. It has so much influence. It's bothersome to me. You got people out there, they don't want to take the vaccine, they don't want to wear masks. No, because God will protect them from COVID. But then they need guns, right? See, we're right back to hypocrisy. They need the guns. God will protect them from a deadly disease, a deadly virus, sorry, but not a burglar. Mm. Yeah, the damn that corona. I don't need no mask or the mask. They just make it hard for you to breathe. They just make it hard for you to breathe. I don't need those damn masks. No. Now for the corona, I got God protecting me. Why you need guns then? Why? You know, God don't protect you from the burglars, from the bullets, from the bad guys. Just the invisible deadly virus. That's all. Mm. 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 Yeah, I understand completely. And I love how the right currently bitch about Joe Biden so much. And don't get me wrong, not the biggest fan of the guy here. Trust me, we've talked about that, right? But I liked him a lot more than the other guy. But it's amazing how much love they have for Trump and the things they ignored with that motherfucker and continue to ignore. Yet they bitch about Joe Biden's every little thing. Like he said the word Negro. He was talking about a particular player that played for the Negro Baseball League. I don't like that's what it was. It's shitty, but it was that way back in that time. It's kind of like, the NBA. God, what was the other ABA? I don't remember, to be honest. But before the merger, I mean, the other league was essentially considered like the black league. And that's why it's crazy. Some of these really old athletes in sports are held up in this regard. I think Daniel Tosh has a joke about it, but how is Babe Ruth like considered one of these all-time greats and breaking all these records when he was doing it before black people got to play? Like that's a good point. It's a good point. Because it's true. And not just black, but like you look at how many Hispanic, Latino, like there's a lot of those players in the league now. I mean, I'm not big into baseball, but it's just it is what it is. Same thing with basketball. I mean, basketball is the diversity brings so much to these sports, to these games, and leagues are aware of that now. But it wasn't obviously always that way. But yeah, it just anti-science. I just like conspiracy theories, everything. Like it just blows my mind what these people, what they believe in and what they don't believe in. And how much they believe in Trump is bothersome, because if he does make it to a 2024 run, whew, we could be in some trouble, because Biden's not impressing anybody. That's why we need a new runner in 2024. Come on, people, let's get it together. Let's get the Undertaker in here. And if you haven't heard my little chat about that, it's basically, if they want to do a wrestler, forget The Rock, right? Because that's everybody's popular. I like to go dark horse. And what darker horse than the Undertaker? Because who the fuck is going to mess with America if the Undertaker is president? He's known everywhere, the Undertaker. They hold shows in Saudi Arabia, right? No, Undertaker is call off operation. No. Undertaker is prisoner, the dead man. He is now president of America. We must not. Yes. Yeah, nobody wants to fuck with us if the dead man is the prez. But surprise, surprise, more and more coming out on Trump all the time. Talking about this recently, I was reading about all the shit they were doing in the White House to block like the CDC warnings and everything. Because you got to remember, excuse me, a lot of where we're at with COVID begins and ends with Trump. Because let's say Biden was in there during COVID, or COVID happened during Biden. And before, I guess it would have had to have been before Trump, because it doesn't matter what Democrat you probably put in there now, with the whole big lie and all of that. Trumpers were going to reject anybody. So the COVID warnings that the CDC wanted to put out, he basically used the excuse, they didn't want anybody to panic. But like, they started regulating, and you remember when they started regulating the messaging of COVID. That shit, if you look back on how irresponsible all of it was, it'll be gone in no time. It just, it's so bad that he even at one of his rallies got booed for bringing up the vaccine and that it was good. I just, it's a dangerous place this country is in. And largely because of one fucking asshole, one orange racist turd with fake ass hair, and he wears diapers. I don't get it. They love this guy. These people love this guy. But next week, I'm going to bring a list of Trump offenses. We're going to go through the list of Trump offenses, my list of Trump offenses. And surprise, surprise, there's a fucking shit ton of them. That's right. And we're going to go through mainly his presidential ones, mainly. But yeah, that's for next week. Now we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with news and sports. But first, a word from our sponsors. Surprise, surprise, we have none. That's just a joke. whole Harry Potter wand and acting like I was casting spells and whatnot. And I chose the Snape wand because he was played by Alan Rickman. May he rest in power. Are we allowed to say that about white people? I'm not sure. Rest in peace. Just to be safe, I'm going to say rest in peace. It wasn't a joke. I'm really not sure. Because I see rest in power. I really like that. Rest in power. But I feel like I'm mostly seeing that from Black people. So if that's like a specific thing that they've been using, I don't want to trample on their shit, you know? I don't like to do that. I try and be culturally sensitive as much as possible. I think it's important. But back to Snape, may he rest in peace. I think Alan Rickman, not Snape, rest in peace. Well, I guess rest in peace for Snape too, because, spoiler alert, he gone. But Alan Rickman plays in a very good movie. Not sure how much the younger generation would be too into the Jay and Silent Bob movies. But if you've seen Dogma, that's a really good movie, a bit apocalyptic. And it's great. It's great. Alanis Morissette plays God. That's fantastic. But he basically plays an angel, the main angel. I can't remember his goddamn name. But he's one of God's dudes, you know. And we're going to get into some apocalyptic movies later on. That's right. My Mad 6 is on apocalyptic movies. And there's a reason for that. And we'll get into it as we go along. Because we get into the news sports section. And I throw sports in there sometimes. I throw it in there every time. Because I love sports. And I like to talk about sports on occasion. And this is a great section for it. And a lot of times sports can give us very human stories and elements and things. So just like what I'm about to get into, also pertaining to the previous subject of COVID. A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. He got to play some football. So, good for him, but he can fuck off. But they had these fines come out for the team, and that it just totally, it was bullshit. Very light fines, and for Aaron Rodgers, it was for this Halloween party he went to, because he's not supposed to be doing that unvaccinated. But they totally ignored all the breaking of protocol with mask wearing and things like that. So it's just very weird. But he gets back on the Pat McAfee show, the podcast, and basically apologizes for misleading people, but he stands by what he says. But there was also some weird parts with this one too, because he was talking about, I spoke to several doctors. And I think it was Pat McAfee. He was like Dr. Joe Rogan, Dr. Rogan, Dr. Joe, something like that. But when it was like, who'd you speak to? I spoke to a lot of friends that have had COVID. What? And again, this is the dude who I mentioned last week, who said he was a independent thinker. Sorry, which is funny because for such an independent thinker, he's sure going a lot of different places for his opinions and thoughts and things like that. So, okay. And he says he's allergic to some of the ingredients in the vaccine. Maybe he is. I don't know if that's possible. And if it is, good. Okay. He also said he didn't want it to affect having kids or the future having kids, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was all over his ass. I was like, yeah, You know what else is going to do that even more so? COVID. What you got? Not gonna lie, I am totally with Howard Stern on this. Just fuck all these assholes that are still fighting this. Fuck them. I'm over it. And over it. I'm with you. I'm with you, Howard. I don't even know what to say anymore. We'd be in such a better place. Oh, fuck. In other news, in the world news, really, and it's another topic, though worldwide, it's another topic certain assholes deny, and it's the climate. The COP26 wrapped up in Glasgow, Scotland, and they did strike a climate deal, which was basically, in a nutshell, aimed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And surprise, surprise, it's not fucking good enough. Not even close. The deal is not going to limit enough to keep the planet below the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. Okay, then, and what that is, see, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change produced this paper in 2018 after the study and research, and they noted that 1.5 degrees Celsius would see extreme heat waves, oceans rising, and 70 to 90% of destruction of coral reefs. That sounds shitty. Have you ever seen a coral reef? They're fucking amazing. We don't want to lose these things. And fuck it getting hotter. I don't like that shit. I'll take some, like, oceans rising by Florida, part of California, maybe. Yeah. Even worse at 2 degrees. And see, and this whole thing, and it's kind of in accordance with this Paris Climate Agreement and whatnot, but it's basically to keep it under 2 degrees, right? We're in a state of emergency with the climate. And it's like, we want to keep it well below 2 degrees Celsius and preferably 1.5, but as close to 1.5 as possible. It's like, that's not good enough. We need to be below 1.5, is what fucking smart people and scientists and all of this that know about it are saying. This is another one people want to fucking argue about, even as it's apparent. I mean, we've got glaciers melting, breaking off. We have, it wasn't too long ago, there was like an ice shelf that fucking came up. Part of it came up. Like, there's just, this shit is insane. And that ice, if melted, some of it could let out disease from way back. There's all sorts of crazy shit to this. But it gets hotter. I don't want it to get hotter. This shit is as much a reason to head north to like Canada as is Trump, you know, probably more so. It's crazy. So if we get to 2 degrees or around there, it's way worse. Like, you're talking about a drastic rise in the sea level, flooding, but in certain areas, drought. You're gonna have several species going extinct. Insects are gonna lose habitats. I mean, so much more. It really is. It's it's a sad and sickening feeling, because a lot of it comes back to those in power, right? Those in fucking power. talked about last week. And I also mentioned last week, COP26, there was more delegates there from the oil industry than the nations put together. That's sickening. But that's those people in power, the rich, like these fucking oil companies, that's how much they care. They care more about their oil and doing this to the planet than others care about it. That's what it feels like. How are we not? It's very distressing, right? The hopelessness that a lot of feel is real. Those in power have the power to change it, to make big differences. Not enough of them will. It saddens me for my kids. It really does. Because for their generation, like the question of them having children is a much different one than it's ever been, right? If you know this planet is just getting fried, like what do you it's tough. It's tough. It's a very serious topic that not enough people take seriously, and it's stressful and saddening, you know. And now I've got us all down in the dumps, so we're just going to take another quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to come back for story time and my Mad Six. We'll be back in just a sec. Excuse me. Ooh. Got me good that time. Got me good that time. Yummy, yummy. Welcome back. Oh, shit. Sorry. I took a much more massive hit than I expected, and it got me. It got me good. So, for story time, I had kind of mentioned, I did mention my kids, I worry about them and the future of the planet, and part of my mental stuff is my anxiety and my worry over my kids in general. And because my boys, they mean the world to me. And for story time, I'm going to talk about the birth of all three because there's some interesting stuff behind all of them. Okay. I have three boys, 4, 7, and I want to say 21. Yeah, 21. He's older, obviously. Now, see, Nathan is his name. My oldest, I had him when I was in high school. I didn't have him. Obviously, I didn't give birth to him, but he came into my life when I was in high school. I was a senior. He was just a little chunky thing when I graduated high school. And I know he's 20. He'll be 21 in February, I believe. Is that right? No, he was born in 2000. I graduated. No, he's 21. Sorry. But high school parent, and it was kind of cool because the high school I went to, it was an alternative high school. And basically that's for troubled youths because I've spoken about some of my background, my story before, but after my parents got divorced, I kind of got into some trouble and I ended up getting expelled from school for fighting. And then I moved to Iowa with my dad because I originally lived in Colorado, and moved to Iowa with my dad, and continued with the trouble basically. And I did drop out of school for a while, and then found out about this alternative high school, and that's where I went. And at one point in time, I had drawn the eyes of my oldest son's mother. And there you go. We ended up having a kid. And it was tough. It was tough, but it matured. It made me mature fast. And a lot of that stuff a lot of what I went through early on did. But this alternative high school, there's a lot of us, troubled youths there. And they actually built a daycare next door so that there is, honestly, troubled youths. There's quite a few teen parents there. And this was great because I could take my son to a daycare I could trust every day. And it was right there. Like, I would drive to school, take my son in that building, walk to the next building to go to class. It was great. But yeah, that was, very interesting. And then, he was a tyke when it was my alcoholism got pretty bad. And then I guess he would have been, I can't even remember how old when it was super, super bad. But I finally got him to come live with me after I sobered up, and that was great. And then once he turned 18 and graduated, he was off doing his own thing. And we moved back to Colorado. And he's considering moving out here at some point, but he comes out to visit often, and he's doing well. And, proud of the dude because he, like I did, had to deal with some shit himself growing up. He didn't have to deal with his parents getting divorced. We split when he was pretty young. I figured out pretty early on, like, this is not going to work. And there's no reason to delay the inevitable because I don't want him to experience, get used to us together and then see us part. So just nip it in the bud early. And and everything worked out. And he's just a good dude. So that's my oldest. But when he was born, complications, right? Biggest thing was the labor took a while, but the biggest thing was when he came out, he had swallowed meconium, which is basically shit. He shit in the womb and swallowed some. Getting lungs and stuff like that, it's the bad business. So he was actually in the intensive care for like a week, I think, if I remember right. At least 5 days, 4 or 5 days, maybe 6. I don't know. But it was a big deal. Like he was really sick, and it was tough. You always picture you have your first, and I was young, but I still grasped the significance of it. I'm having a child. This is my first dad. I'm a proud dad, and this is going to be great. Not getting to hold him or anything like that because he had to be, emergencyed off. Like, it's tough. Now the other 2 boys are with my wonderful wife, who I often speak of. And the first that we had was Draven, and it had taken us a while to conceive him, but we did. And his labor was crazy because it was also very long labor, and in the middle of it, the doctor left because she wanted the wife to just her water to naturally break, even though she was like dilated and all that shit. And while the doctor's gone, there's a tornado warning because there's a tornado in the area. We basically get moved from the room down, and we're basically, it's a room, but it's like a closet. Like we got moved all around. Eventually we got taken back to our normal room. Eventually the doctor comes back in and they break the water, get the baby out. But at that point, he had been in there a while. When he was ready to come out, he also swallowed shit. He also swallowed shit. 2 kids swallowing shit, 2 in a row. Huh. Who would have known? Who would figure? But fortunately, swallowing the shit, not as big a deal nowadays. Much easier to take care of, I guess. I don't know, but it's not the same thing, not the concern or worry that it once was. So they got him taken care of pretty quick, and he was in our arms. But we still dealt with a very long labor and a tornado, and again, shit swallowing. So then the youngest, Renly, 4 years old. So you got Nathan, Draven, Renly. And this one was weird because I was having some crazy dreams at that point in time during my wife's pregnancy. And I had a dream where actually she died in labor. And to be honest, she got real fucking close. That shit almost came true, real life. But this was another difficult labor. And he wasn't coming out. He wasn't coming out. So they had to do the C-section, obviously. And it was rough. And everything turned out okay. But the wife did bleed a lot. And I can remember that was like in my dream. And I remember the doctor saying, or maybe it was the doctor that like something like, oh, what was it? I can't even remember specifically the words, but like there's a lot of blood, something like that. Like, oh, okay. If one of the medical professionals is saying like, there's a lot of blood, then there must be a lot of blood. So there was concern for my wife, but made it through. Unlike in the dream, she made it through. Very nice. And it was at the time terrifying because I had that fucking dream. And you just see these events playing out in very similar fashion to this dream, and it's scary shit. So very thankful the ending was different. But then to top it off, this one also swallowed shit. Again, not a big deal, just not a big deal with this shit anymore. This shit swallowing. It's just not, shit swallowing's not that big a deal. If you drop out some of the meconium and you swallow some shit, not a big deal anymore, I guess. It's terrifying. And many days in the ICU with my first. And then by the time I got to the other 2, it's just no big deal at all. Swallow the shit. It's fine. But that's story time. It was more like a combination of short stories. But climate change got me thinking about my kids. And they really are all individually, like I said, the oldest, he just turned out to be a good young man. Draven is very intelligent, thoughtful. He likes to build things. I wouldn't be surprised if he's an engineer. And then Renly, that dude is just a ball of emotion and humor and entertainment. He's just, he's like Bam Bam, but he also, he acts and he pretends to be characters, and he's I don't know, he's something else. They're good dudes. They're all good dudes. And think their future is okay, but you have to worry if they want to have kids with those kids. Futures will be like it's. Let's not get down again, right? So, and which is crazy to say because we're going to move into to the Mad Six, which is actually apocalyptic movies. But that's okay. These are fun. These are fun. Um, and I mentioned Dogma earlier. That's actually a really good movie, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But we move on to the Mad Six and these apocalyptic movies, and I begin with number six, which is a tie. Not a tie. It's just that me, the number six kind of becomes almost like an honorable mention, right? And so I've got War of the Worlds and Independence Day because I mentioned these and like the alien invasion type movies, but that's also apocalyptic type shit, right? Especially in the vein of War of the Worlds, like Independence Day too, right? But it's some scary shit. So those are my honorable mentions, basically, because I already said them from, recent ones. So anyway, number five, I have these two kind of tied to Day After Tomorrow and Armageddon. So it's almost like become a mad eight, but whatever. Neither of these movies are necessarily rated very high, but Armageddon a little higher. But they're just plain fun, right? I just love it. First of all, Day After Tomorrow, there's like all the different shits going on, like so many crazy different types of storms and disasters. And so that's fun. And I heard someone suggest it's great to watch during a blizzard. I imagine so. Armageddon, just good old asteroid film, meteor coming to Earth, asteroid. That they want to go fucking, take care of this thing before it hits the Earth. Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Steve Buscemi, my girl Liv Tyler. Steve Buscemi, man. He is one of the best. I love that dude. Love him to death. And so Armageddon, yeah, good stuff. Again, not the greatest movies out there, but fine. Now four, Mad Max Fury Road. This shit is just pure fun, balls to the wall. It's a blast, right? Number three, I think, is a little underrated. Probably wouldn't be on a lot of people's list. And that's Waterworld. And I really enjoy that movie because I know a lot of people don't really care. And it's kind of a joke and a punchline because what's the deal behind it? The story is supposed to be some magnificent movie and it didn't do well, or I can't remember, but I don't care. I fucking love it. And in part because it's so realistic as to, what shit could look like. Now, I don't know how long it would look like that before, I do believe it would take years upon years for the oceans to boil away, but because that's what would happen. It'd kind of, cover everything and then start to evaporate, I guess, right? See, now I'm getting to the delirious point of the pod where I'm ready to eat and go to sleep. So my brain's just like, we're starting to get to shut down. Number two, I love Waterworld, is what I'm saying. Number two, Shaun of the Dead. Zombie movie. And yeah, I love World War Z. Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorites. Oh gosh, there's another one I feel like I'm leaving out. Zombie movie, 28 Days Later. That's very good, very apocalyptic. But I have to go Shaun of the Dead just because it's my favorite zombie one. And it's so fucking great. It's so funny. 2 seconds. But number one, and yeah, it's a TV made movie or a TV series. The remake is, and regardless, it's very long. but it's absolutely the greatest apocalyptic story, in my opinion, and that is Stephen King's The Stand. That's right. Because this movie is not only the apocalyptic aspect of a virus that gets out of a military lab, but then turns into a battle between good and evil, a battle essentially to the death. So it's fucking great. It's fucking great. Pure apocalypse, end of world. It's just, I fucking love it. And I was thinking you could also throw in there like Avengers Endgame. You know, Thanos trying to destroy half the world. That's very apocalyptic. But mine is overall, The Stand. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. I love it. I love it to death. I might just have to start rewatching that again or watch the new one. I'm going to have to check out the new one. That's right. That's what I'll do. Maybe I'll do that when I eat and fall asleep to it. Yes, that's right. Anyway, that's what we got. Apocalyptic movies. I love apocalyptic movies. That's right. Okay. Thank you for joining me, Mad Cats. Much appreciated. And we're going to get to that. So I can go eat and sleep. But until next time, stay vigilant, stay mad. And we'll chat again soon. So, top for now. Like us.